the hidden thieves of your inner calm. We live in a world obsessed with the idea of peace. Everyone talks about it, dreams of it, searches for it in books, meditation retreats, or inspirational quotes that promise a calm mind and a quiet heart. Yet, if you look closely, very few people actually experience lasting peace. It slips away the moment life becomes inconvenient. It disappears when someone irritates us, when expectations aren't met, or when we feel misunderstood. And so, peace becomes something we chase rather than something we live. Alan Watts once said that peace is not a state we create, but a state we uncover. It's already there, beneath the noise, waiting for us to stop disturbing it. And perhaps that's where our biggest mistake lies. We believe the world is stealing our peace, when in reality, it's the people we allow too close who slowly drain it from within us. Think about it. How many times have you felt perfectly fine until a certain person entered the room? How often have you noticed your mood shift, your energy drop, or your calm dissolve, all because of one individual's presence or words? You may have told yourself it's nothing, that you're being dramatic. But what if it isn't nothing at all? What if the reason you lose peace so easily is that you haven't realized how much power you've handed over to others? Watts believed that suffering often begins the moment we try to control what cannot be controlled. And people are the perfect example of this. We try to make them like us, understand us, change for us, or appreciate us. We give endless energy to convincing, fixing, and proving. But peace cannot survive where control exists, because every attempt to change someone is a hidden declaration that we cannot accept them as they are. When you constantly give your energy to those who disturb your spirit, you're not being loving or compassionate. You're simply draining yourself in the name of goodness. You're mistaking endurance for peace. Watts used to remind his listeners that true peace has nothing to do with what happens outside of you, but with the depth of your awareness inside you. When you finally see that no one can destroy your peace unless you give them permission, something changes. You begin to observe instead of absorb. You begin to listen without reacting. You start to protect your stillness like it is sacred, because it is. Some people do not mean to disturb you, but their energy always does. They arrive full of noise, and without realizing it, you become part of their storm. But the moment you become aware, you gain back your choice. You can stay in the storm, or you can step out and return to silence. You can love them from a distance. You can care without carrying. That's the subtle art of spiritual maturity that Watts spoke of so often. The people who quietly destroy your peace are not villains. They are teachers. They show you where your boundaries are too weak, where your attachment is too strong, and where your own stillness needs deepening. Every disturbance is a mirror showing you what you still react to. The lesson isn't to hate them, but to awaken through them. When you learn this, no one can take your peace again, because peace no longer depends on behavior. It depends on presence. In this journey, we'll explore 7 types of people who slowly erode your calm, not because they're bad, but because they unconsciously pull you out of yourself. Some drain you with endless negativity. Some feed on your attention. Some drown you in drama or guilt. Others carry such chaos that they make stillness feel like rebellion. But each one will teach you something essential about your energy, your limits, and your need for clarity. So, before we dive deeper, take a moment to reflect. Is there someone in your life who seems to carry a storm wherever they go? Someone whose words, actions, or presence consistently unsettles your peace. Recognizing them is not judgment, it's awareness. Now, I want to hear from you. Leave a short comment below and tell me, yes, I know someone who drains my peace, but I'm ready to reclaim it. Write it exactly like that, because the act of naming it is the first step toward taking your power back. The emotional storm. Why some people disrupt your energy. Alan Watts often said that when you try to control life, life begins to control you. The same truth applies to people. The harder you try to manage how others behave, feel, or respond, the more power they gain over your peace. You start reacting to every vibration around you, forgetting that stillness is not found in the silence of others, but in the steadiness of your own awareness. There are people who carry storms within them. They move through life like restless winds, stirring chaos everywhere they go. Their energy is never still, their thoughts are loud, and their emotions spill over into everyone they meet. They might not mean to harm, but their inner turbulence has a way of pulling others into its orbit. You can feel it the moment they enter a room. The atmosphere shifts, the conversation becomes heavier. Your body tenses as if preparing for a wave that's about to crash. You may recognize the chronic complainer. Every topic becomes an opportunity to highlight what's wrong with the world. Nothing satisfies them. They live in a constant state of resistance. Resistance to change, to people, to circumstances, to reality itself. Spending time with them feels like wading through thick mud. You try to lift them, to shine some light into their darkness, but it's never enough. And eventually, their heaviness becomes yours. Then there's the drama magnet. For them, peace feels unnatural. Quiet moments make them anxious. They seek excitement through conflict, validation through crisis. They turn small problems into emotional earthquakes and draw others in as unwilling participants. You find yourself tangled in their stories, offering advice they never follow, resolving issues that reappear a week later. You think you're helping, but you're only feeding the storm. Watts taught that the more you identify with someone's suffering, the more you drown in it. Compassion doesn't mean submerging yourself in another person's chaos. True compassion is the ability to see clearly without losing yourself. It's to stand beside the storm, but not within it. The moment you stop reacting, you stop giving the storm its fuel. Some people unconsciously rely on your calm to stabilize their own instability. They come to you not for truth, but for energy. They need a listener, a savior, a rescuer. And because you are kind, you keep offering yourself as their refuge. But over time, you notice a strange fatigue setting in. You leave those encounters feeling drained, scattered, and somehow less you. This is not love. This is energetic imbalance. Watts described this dynamic beautifully. He said that trying to fix others is like trying to smooth the waves of the ocean with your hands. The more you touch it, the rougher it becomes. Real peace arrives when you realize that people must learn through their own motion, their own rhythm, their own mistakes. You cannot carry another person's awakening. You can only model peace through your own presence. To protect your energy doesn't mean to become indifferent. It means to see reality with clarity and respond with wisdom instead of reaction. It means knowing when to listen and when to step away. You can still care deeply, but you must stop confusing exhaustion with empathy. Peaceful people are not those who fix everything. They are those who know when to stop trying. Sometimes, the most compassionate thing you can do is nothing. You let the complainer face their dissatisfaction. You allow the drama magnet to sit in their silence. You stop explaining, defending, and overgiving. You stop dancing in the storms that are not yours. The result is remarkable. The chaos loses its grip on you. The storm continues, perhaps, but you remain unmoved. When you finally see that your energy is sacred, you start treating it like a temple instead of a donation box. You become selective about who enters your inner space. You notice how your body feels around certain people, tight or open, heavy or light, and you learn to trust that feeling. Protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's self-respect. So the next time someone brings a storm into your day, pause before reacting. Breathe. Remember that you are not the weather. You are the sky. Storms pass, but the sky remains. When you root your awareness in that stillness, no amount of noise can disturb you. That is what Alan Watts called the quiet strength of wisdom, the ability to stand calm in the middle of chaos because you know the chaos was never yours to begin with. Alan Watts often reminded his listeners that what you allow is what continues. The same principle applies to peace. Most of us don't lose our peace suddenly. We surrender it slowly, one small compromise at a time, to the wrong kinds of people. We let certain personalities drain us because we mistake endurance for compassion. We stay silent because we confuse peace with avoidance. We keep giving chances because we believe that goodness means limitless tolerance. But Watts would say that the greatest act of wisdom is learning to recognize when your energy is being consumed by those who are not ready to receive it. He believed that human interactions are not random. Each person who enters your life mirrors something within you, your patience, your boundaries, your hidden fears, or your desire to heal what is broken. Some will awaken your light. Others will challenge it. But both kinds are teachers. The key is to learn to see who is helping you evolve and who is holding you back. In that spirit, Watts would describe 7 archetypes that quietly, often unknowingly, steal your peace. Let's explore them. The first is the chronic victim. This person never takes responsibility for their life. Every setback is someone else's fault, every hardship an act of cruelty from the universe. They collect sympathy like trophies, always retelling their pain, yet never seeking transformation. When you help them, they don't use your energy to rise. They use it to repeat the same story. Watts would say that compassion towards such a person means allowing them to face the reality they keep avoiding. If you keep rescuing them, you rob them of their chance to discover their strength. The second is the energy vampire. They often appear kind, charismatic, or deeply emotional. But behind every conversation lies a silent hunger. They feed on attention, approval, and validation. You'll notice that after spending time with them, you feel tired, unfocused, or strangely heavy. They don't mean to harm. They're simply unaware of their dependence on the energy of others. The solution is not to condemn them, but to limit access. Peace requires distance from those who cannot fill their own emptiness. The third is the perpetual judge. This archetype hides behind moral superiority. They point out flaws in everyone, cloaking criticism as honesty or advice. Nothing is ever good enough, not your choices, your dreams, or your growth. Their presence breeds insecurity because judgment poisons the space where acceptance should live. Watts would say that these people fear their own imperfection, so they project it outward. The lesson here is simple. You don't owe explanations to those committed to misunderstanding you. Silence protects what judgment seeks to destroy. The fourth is the endless talker. They fear silence because silence reveals too much. They fill every moment with noise, opinions, and narratives that circle endlessly without meaning. Listening to them feels like drowning in words that lead nowhere. Watts loved silence. He believed it was the language of truth. When you spend too long around those who cannot stop speaking, you forget the beauty of stillness. Protecting your peace here means choosing quiet company, or sometimes your own company. The fifth is the envious observer. They smile when you succeed, but you can feel the tension behind their compliments. They measure their worth against yours and secretly resent your progress. Watts believed envy was the product of separation, the illusion that another's light diminishes your own. These people can't celebrate others because they believe life is a competition rather than a dance. Your task is to stay radiant without dimming yourself for their comfort. Shine anyway. The sixth is the emotional manipulator. This person knows your empathy is your weakness. They twist guilt into control, using your kindness to meet their own needs. They will cry to keep you close, flatter you to disarm you, and remind you of all you've done for them when you try to leave. Watts would say that manipulation only thrives where there is self-doubt. Once you trust your intuition, their control dissolves. The boundary you refuse to set today becomes the resentment you carry tomorrow. The seventh is the chaos creator. They are addicted to tension. When peace lasts too long, they stir conflict to feel alive again. They gossip, provoke, or play both sides to keep the fire burning. Chaos is their comfort zone because stillness feels like death to their restless mind. Watts taught that people like this exist to remind us of our choice, to join the chaos or to observe it from the shore. Peace is not the absence of storms. It's learning not to get pulled into every wave. These 7 archetypes exist in all of us to some degree. Sometimes we are the victims, sometimes the talkers, sometimes the envious observers. Recognizing them in others is only half the work. The real growth comes from recognizing when we have become one of them. Watts said that awareness dissolves illusion. When you see clearly, the behavior loses its power. So look around your life. Who takes your calm and gives nothing back but confusion? Who makes you feel smaller, heavier, or guilty for setting boundaries? And just as importantly, when have you been that person for someone else? Reflection brings balance. Understanding brings compassion. And compassion, guided by wisdom, becomes peace. Watts would remind you that protecting your peace is not about closing your heart. It's about learning which hearts can meet yours without wounding it. You are allowed to walk away without anger. You are allowed to be kind without being consumed. The goal is not to isolate yourself, but to choose your circle consciously. Because when your company reflects your calm, your inner world becomes a sanctuary that no one can disturb. Alan Watts often said that true freedom does not come from having control over life, but from realizing you never needed control in the first place. That idea is the foundation of peace. We spend so much of our time trying to manage everything, people, emotions, outcomes, as if stillness were something that can only exist when the world behaves the way we want. But peace, in its truest form, is not built on control. It is born from clarity, It is the quiet understanding that you can love deeply and still let go, care sincerely and still stay centered, engage fully and still remain free. Most people fear detachment because they mistake it for indifference. They believe that to detach is to stop caring, to close the heart, to turn cold. But Watts explained that detachment is not a lack of love. It is the highest expression of it. When you detach, you love without conditions. You stop demanding that others act a certain way to preserve your peace. You stop clinging to what is temporary and start trusting the natural rhythm of life. Detachment, in truth, is not disconnection. It is wisdom in motion. Imagine a tree, Watts would say. Its branches reach toward the sun, but its roots sink into the earth. It bends with the wind, but does not break. It does not chase the breeze, nor resist the storm. It allows both to come and go. That is the essence of spiritual detachment. Flexibility rooted in awareness. You become part of life's flow without being carried away by it. Many people believe they are losing themselves when they stop rescuing others. In reality, they are finding themselves. For years, they've confused sacrifice with love, believing that to prove care, one must always carry another person's burden. But Watts taught that helping someone does not always mean intervening. Sometimes it means stepping back and allowing the natural consequences of their actions to become their teacher. If you remove every obstacle from another's path, you rob them of the wisdom that struggle brings. True compassion knows when to stay and when to release. It understands that forcing someone's growth is an act of control disguised as kindness. The universe teaches through contrast, joy and pain, gain and loss, connection and separation. When you allow people to experience the lessons meant for them, you honor both their journey and your own. That is what Watts meant when he said that love and freedom are two sides of the same coin. Love binds without chains. Freedom holds without grasping. To detach is to stop resisting reality. It is to see that nothing in this world truly belongs to you, not people, not outcomes, not even your emotions. Everything passes through you, like wind through open hands. Trying to hold on only creates friction, and friction is suffering. When you release your grip, peace returns naturally, the way water becomes still when you stop stirring it. Many people think that boundaries are walls, but in truth, they are doors. They allow love to flow freely without letting chaos flood the house. Watts often said that the person who has mastered detachment can be in the center of noise and still feel silent inside. They can sit with those in pain and not absorb their suffering. They can give without resentment, receive without guilt, and walk away without bitterness. That is not indifference. It is maturity. If you observe nature, you will see that everything in it knows how to let go. Leaves fall when their time is done. Rivers move forward without looking back. The sun sets without apology. Only humans cling, resist, and suffer from the illusion of permanence. Detachment, therefore, is not a rejection of life. It is an alignment with it. When you let things be, you begin to see their true nature. When you stop trying to possess people, you finally get to experience them. Detachment also transforms relationships. When you stop needing people to complete you, you begin to enjoy them for who they are. You listen without expecting, love without demanding, and forgive without waiting for an apology. You become free to give, not because you must, but because you can. Watts would say that this is the only love that lasts, the kind that flows from fullness, not from fear. So, when you feel yourself tightening, holding, or trying to force an outcome. Pause and breathe. Ask yourself, what am I afraid to lose? More often than not, it is an illusion, a story you've told yourself about what you need to be happy. But peace does not come from having. It comes from allowing. In time, you'll discover that detachment is not a technique. It is a state of being. It grows naturally when you see clearly. You stop reacting to every ripple because you've remembered that you are the ocean. You stop chasing temporary comforts because you've realized that stillness was never missing. It was only buried under the noise of control. And so, detachment becomes a quiet rebellion against the chaos of the world. You no longer depend on approval, validation, or constant reassurance. You walk lightly, knowing that whatever comes will pass, and whatever passes will make room for something new. You stop fighting life and start dancing with it. Watts would smile and say that freedom is not something you find after you've let go. It's what's left when you finally do.